Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I have to start today's session with a bit of a confession.
Oh!
Yeah, I was looking through my credit card statement this morning, actually, preparing for this very conversation, and I found a charge. A charge for a very expensive, very organic, very, let's just call it aromatic set of essential oils.
Okay. And I'm guessing you're not a big essential oils guy?
I don't use them at all.
Yeah.
I don't even own one of those diffuser things.
So the obvious question is, how did they end up on your bill? Did you get hacked or something?
No, nothing that dramatic. I bought them.
You bought them?
I bought them because my cousin's new girlfriend is selling them, and she sent me this direct message that was so nice and so, personalized that I felt like a monster saying no. I didn't buy the oils because I wanted the product. Not at all. I bought them because I liked her, and I guess I wanted her to like me.
You have just described in absolutely perfect detail an encounter with what we call the friendly thief.
The friendly thief. That sounds like a character from a kid's book, but when you look at the financial impact, it's actually terrifying.
It is, isn't it? Usually when we think of a thief, or even just getting a bad deal, we picture some shadowy figure.
Right, someone hostile, a scammer.
You have your guard up. But the friendly thief, well, they don't wear a mask, they wear a smile. They're often people we know, or, people we feel like we know.
And the theft happens because we're just handing over our resources, our money, our time, our agreement.
Exactly. Not because the deal makes any logical sense, but because of the bond we feel with the person asking.
And that is the absolute core of what we're unpacking today. We're doing a comprehensive deep dive into the liking rule of influence. We've pulled a whole stack of research, but the centerpiece is the liking chapter from Robert Cialdini's classic work on influence.
Right.
The mission really is to figure out why I bought those oils. What are the psychological triggers that cause us to like people, often, completely unconsciously, and how do compliance professionals weaponize those triggers?
And weaponize is exactly the right word here. I know it sounds harsh, but when you look at the research, you see that making a friend and making a sale use the exact same psychological machinery.
The only difference is the intent.
The only difference is intent.
So map out the journey for us. Where does this start?
We're going to start in the suburbs, actually. We're going to look at the Tupperware trap, which is, it's really the atomic bomb of social pressure.
Okay.
Then we'll move into the biology of it, why we automatically trust good-looking people, the halo effect.
And I know we're going to get into some really interesting stuff about similarity, too. Why we trust people who happen to dress like us.
Right. And then we're going to take a bit of a darker turn. We'll look at the good cop, bad cop dynamic, which is so much more sophisticated than just yelling and whispering. We'll cover the famous summer camp experiments that showed how to, literally manufacture hatred and then somehow cure it. And finally, we'll end up in the sports stadium to figure out why you say, "We won" when your team wins.
But they lost when they choke.
Exactly.
It's a journey from the living room to the interrogation room. So let's start in the living room. The Tupperware party. Now, I've managed to avoid these, mostly by just, being busy, but I know the concept. It's an American institution.
It is the quintessential compliance setting. Cialdini breaks this down, and it's just fascinating because on the surface, it just looks like a fun evening.
Right. You've got neighbors, you've got snacks, you have some games.
But underneath all of that, it is a finely tuned machine, and it's designed to dismantle your resistance piece by piece.
It's like a layer cake of manipulation. You've got the games first, right? That's where it starts.
Correct. The party usually kicks off with these little games where people can win prizes. But even if you don't win, there's a grab bag. Everyone walks away with some small gift.
Okay, so that triggers the rule of reciprocity.
Instantly. We've talked about this before. That deep cultural obligation that says, I gave you something, now you owe me something.
So before the sales pitch even begins, everyone in that room is already subtly embedded to the host.
And then you have the public commitment aspect.
Ah, yes.
The demonstrator asks everyone to go around the room and share the benefits of the Tupperware they already own. Oh, I love my lettuce keeper. It keeps things fresh for weeks.
And by saying that out loud in front of witnesses, you're locking yourself into a position.
You are. You are publicly stating, I am a person who values this product. And it becomes very, very hard to back down from that later on.
And of course, social proof. If everyone else is buying, I start to feel like I should too. But Cialdini argues that all of those reciprocity, commitment, social proof, they're just the warm-up act.
They are the opening band. The headliner, the real heavy hitter, is the liking rule. And here is the twist. Think about who the salesperson is at a Tupperware party.
Well, there's a demonstrator, the person showing off the bowls.
Sure. But the transaction isn't really about them.
Right, because they're usually a stranger, or at least just an acquaintance.
Yeah.
The real pressure, it comes from the hostess.
Exactly. The hostess is your friend. She's the one who invited you. She's the one smiling, pouring the wine, serving the cake. And she's the one sitting over in the corner tallying the orders.
And everyone in that room knows the score.
Everyone knows she gets a cut. She gets a percentage of every single sale to put toward her own prizes or, her own income.
So when I buy that bowl, I'm not buying it from Tupperware Inc. I'm buying it for Sarah. I'm helping my friend.
That is the genius of the model. The corporation arranges for its customers to buy from a friend. They literally take the warmth, the safety, and the obligation of friendship and attach it to a commercial transaction.
Is there any hard data on this?
Cialdini cites a study by Frenzer and Davis that looked at these home party settings. They wanted to know, what mattered more, the product or the friend.
I would hope the product matters. I mean, if the product is junk, I'm not buying it.
You would think so, but they found that the strength of the social bond, so how much you like the hostess, was twice as likely to determine whether a purchase occurred as your actual preference for the product. Twice as likely. So the quality of the plastic is literally half as important as how much I like the person selling it.
That's what the data says. It creates this trap. Cialdini quotes a woman in the book who describes this feeling perfectly. She says, "It's gotten to the point where I hate to be invited to Tupperware parties."
Because she has all the containers she needs.
She has everything. She knows she can buy cheaper stuff at the grocery store, but when a friend calls, she feels like she has to go. And when she gets there,
she feels like she has to buy.
Exactly.
That is the definition of the friendly thief. You are being robbed, in a way, but you're handing over the wallet willingly just to avoid offending someone you care about. It's social blackmail.
And it was unbelievably effective. At the height of this model, Tupperware sales were exceeding $2.5 million a day. A new party started somewhere in the world every 2.7 seconds.
That is just a staggering volume. But that model, it relies on the friend being in the room. What happens when the friend isn't there? The sources talked about the endless chain method. This, to me, feels even more insidious. Why is that?
Because the friend doesn't even know they're being used.
The endless chain is like the viral marketing of the pre-internet age. It was used heavily by companies like the Shockley Corporation. And the mechanic is simple. If a salesperson calls on you and you don't buy anything, or even if you do, their main goal is to get you to give them the name of a friend who might be interested.
Who else do you know who would love this amazing new cleaning product?
Right. And most people, just to get the salesperson off their porch, they'll give a name. Oh, try Mr. Smith down the street. The moment you give that name, you have armed the salesperson with a weapon.
Because now they don't have to make a cold call?
They go to Mr. Smith and they don't say, "Hi, I'm a stranger selling soap." No. They say, "Hi, Mr. Smith. Your friend Bill suggested I call on you because he thought you'd really benefit from this."
Ugh. That puts Mr. Smith in just a terrible position.
It's a box. Turning that salesperson away now feels like you're rejecting Bill. It feels like you're telling your friend, "I don't care about your recommendation."
So the sales manuals probably love this.
They explicitly tell their staff to use this. They say using the name is virtually as good as a sale 50% made before you enter.
It effectively smuggles the friendship into the room. Bill isn't there, but his ghost is, and that ghost is pressuring you to buy the soap.
It leverages the bond of friendship to crack open the door for a total stranger. It's brilliant, and it's manipulative.
But this all leads us to a bigger question. A lot of the time we're dealing with salespeople we don't know at all. We don't have a mutual friend. We've never met them. So how do they trigger the liking rule then?
Right. If I walk onto a car lot, I don't know that guy. But you can be sure that within 10 minutes, he wants me to think he's my best buddy.
Cialdini points to the Guinness Book of World Records holder for car sales, a guy named Joe Girard.
This guy's stats are just unbelievable.
They really are. For 12 years straight, he was the #1 car salesman in the world. He averaged 5 cars and trucks sold every single day.
Most salespeople are happy with 5 a month.
5 a day's an assembly line. He must have had some, incredibly complex strategy, right? Some kind of 4D chess move.
And that's the funny thing. When they asked him, he said it was incredibly simple. He said the formula was just 2 things: a fair price and someone they liked to buy from. That's it.
Someone they liked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but that feels a little circular. What made people like Joe Girard? I mean, what makes us like any stranger?
Well, social scientists have spent decades studying exactly this, and they've identified several key drivers of liking. And the first one is the most uncomfortable to discuss because it's the most superficial.
Physical attractiveness.
Physical attractiveness.
We all want to say, not me.
Yeah.
We all want to believe we judge people on the content of their character, not their jawline.
But the research says we're lying to ourselves.
It's pretty brutal.
The research is absolutely brutal. And it brings us to the concept of the halo effect.
Let's break that down. A halo effect isn't just, I think you're pretty. It's more than that.
Oh, much more. It's a cognitive bias where one positive characteristic of a person dominates the way that person is viewed in every other aspect.
And physical beauty is the most powerful one.
It's the most powerful one we know of. The studies show that we automatically, subconsciously assign favorable traits to good-looking individuals. We just assume they are talented, kind, honest, and intelligent.
With no evidence. Just because they have a symmetrical face.
Click, whir, it's automatic. We see a handsome face. Click, we assume they're smart and honest. Whir. There was this study of a Canadian federal election that really drives this home. Researchers rated the attractiveness of the candidates, and then they just looked at the vote totals.
What did they find?
The attractive candidates received more than 2.5 times as many votes as the unattractive candidates.
2.5 times.
I mean, that is a landslide. That is the difference between winning and losing, based purely on genetics.
But I bet if you asked those voters, they'd say it was all about the policies, the tax plan or something.
And that is the most frightening part of it. When they surveyed the voters, 73% denied in the strongest possible terms that appearance influenced them at all. Only 14% even allowed for the possibility.
So we are completely blind to our own bias. We think we're voting for tax policy, but really we're just voting for a good jawline.
It's bad enough in politics, but the sources mention the legal system. That's where I gotta chill.
Me too.
Rocked up.
Because if this bias exists in court, then the whole idea of blind justice is just a myth.
It is a significant problem. In a Pennsylvania study, researchers rated the attractiveness of male defendants at the start of their criminal trials. Then, when they checked the court records later,
The handsome men got lighter sentences.
significantly lighter sentences. In fact, the attractive defendants were twice as likely to avoid jail entirely.
Wait, twice as likely to avoid jail. So you could have two guys, same crime, same evidence, but the good-looking one walks free and the other guy goes to prison.
That is what the data indicates. And it gets even more granular when you look at civil cases, specifically negligence trials. There was a study that looked at the damages awarded. When the defendant was better looking than the victim was awarded an average of $5,623.
Okay, a little over $5,000.
But if the victim was better looking than the defendant, the average compensation jumped to $10,051.
That's almost double.
Essentially, yes. The jurors, and this included both men and women, they were valuing the suffering of the attractive victim at nearly twice the rate of the less attractive one.
Or they were just penalizing the unattractive defendant more.
Either way you slice it, beauty was acting as a weighted thumb on the scales of justice.
That is just profound, and it explains so much. It explains why salespeople are always so well-groomed. It explains why news anchors look the way they do.
It's an enormous social advantage.
But, not everyone can be a supermodel. If a salesperson is just average looking, are they out of luck?
Not at all. Because there is a second trigger that is just as powerful and, frankly, much easier to manufacture. Similarity.
We like people who are like us.
Exactly. This is deep evolutionary programming. We trust the tribe. We trust people who share our opinions, our personality, our background, or even just our lifestyle. If I can show you that I am like you, your brain opens the gate.
The sources had this great, slightly retro example about the way people dressed in the 1970s. The hippie versus straight experiment.
This is a classic. Researchers dressed up either in hippie clothes, bell-bottoms, loose shirts, or straight attire, so more conservative. Then they went onto a college campus and asked students for a dime to make a phone call.
A simple request. Can I borrow a dime?
And when the experimenter was dressed like the student, the request was granted more than 2/3 of the time.
Okay.
But when they were dressed differently, a hippie asking a straight student, or vice versa, it dropped to less than half the time.
Just because of the clothes. You look like me, here's some money, you don't look like me, go away.
It gets even more alarming. There was another experiment involving signing petitions. And people were more likely to sign a petition without even reading it if the requester was dressed like them.
That is dangerous.
Tickwer.
Yeah.
You look like me, so I must trust you, so I'll sign whatever you put in front of me.
Wow.
Dang.
Sign this
Yeah.
without reading it. I mean, that's how you lose your house.
Oh.
So how does a car salesman use this? They can't just change their outfit for every customer who walks on the lot.
No, but they can manufacture similarity in conversation, and this is standard training. They are taught to look for clues. It's called trunk inspection.
Trunk inspections.
When you drive in to trade in your old car, the salesman walks around it. He's not just looking for dents, he's looking inside.
What's he looking for?
Evidence of your identity. Does he see a tent and sleeping bags? Does he see golf clubs? A bumper sticker for a specific college?
Ah, I see. So he spots my camping gear, comes back to his desk.
And casually mentions, man, I cannot wait for the weekend. I'm hoping to get out of the city and do some camping. Do you camp?
And instantly I light up. Yeah, I love camping.
Oh.
And suddenly, he's not just a salesman anymore. He's a fellow camper. He's one of us.
Precisely. It builds a bridge instantly. And then there is the mirror and match technique. This is more physical.
Okay.
Sales trainees are taught to literally copy the customer. If the customer speaks slowly and quietly, the salesperson drops their voice and slows down. If the customer is high energy and talks with their hands, the salesperson amps it up.
It's like a chameleon act.
It creates a subconscious rhythm. You feel comfortable with the person because they are reflecting your own behavior back to you. You feel understood.
So we have beauty and we have similarity. But sometimes people just use brute force. They just tell us we're great. Let's talk about flattery.
Flattery is a sledgehammer, and the research shows we are just phenomenal suckers for it. Remember Joe Girard, the car salesman?
This guy with the 5 cars a day.
He had a system. Every single month, he sent a greeting card to his entire list of 13,000 former customers.
13,000.
13,000. In January, it said Happy New Year. In October, Happy Halloween. But the message inside the card never changed. It just said, I like you. And then his signature.
That feels, almost insultingly fake. 13,000 people getting a pre-printed card that just says, I like you. It's junk mail.
It was completely impersonal. It was obviously mass-produced, and yet it worked. Joe became a multimillionaire on the back of those cards.
So what did he understand that we don't?
He understood something fundamental about human nature. We have a hopeless addiction to being liked. We crave it so much that we lower our defenses even when we know it's not genuine.
Is there any data on this? Or is it just Joe's intuition?
Oh, there is data. A study in North Carolina had men receive comments from someone who needed a favor. Some got positive comments, some negative, some mixed.
And I'm assuming the ones who got praise like the guy the most.
By a landslide. But here are the two fascinating twists that came out of that study. First, the men liked the flatterer best, even when they knew he had an ulterior motive.
So they knew he wanted something, and they still fell for it.
They knew he was buttering them up, and they still liked him for saying nice things. My brain goes, he's trying to manipulate me. But he did say, I have nice eyes, so he's a good guy.
That's pretty much it. And the second twist is even wilder. Pure praise worked just as well when it was untrue.
Wait, so if you tell me I'm a genius, and I know I'm not a genius, and I know you're lying to get something from me, I still like you.
That is what the data suggests. Positive comments produce just as much liking when they were false as when they were true. We are so hungry for validation that we will just swallow it hook, line, and sinker, regardless of the source or the truthfulness. That is actually kind of sad. It makes us sound incredibly insecure.
We're social animals. Our survival used to depend on being accepted by the tribe. So validation is a survival signal. Yes, we are hardwired to accept it.
Right, so we've covered the cheap tricks, beauty, similarity, flattery. But I want to get into something deeper. There's this belief in our society that the solution to all this tribalism and bias is just getting people together.
The contact hypothesis. It's a lovely idea, and it was the basis for a lot of school desegregation policies in the U.S. The theory was, if you take different groups, black kids and white kids, or any rival groups, and just put them in the same building, exposure will naturally lead to liking.
But the sources say that just didn't happen.
No. In fact, in many cases, school desegregation actually increased prejudice.
So the question is, why?
The answer lies in the type of contact. The classroom is not a neutral zone. It's a competitive environment. You are competing for the teacher's approval, for grades, for status.
So if I'm struggling and the kid from the other group is succeeding, I don't start to like him. I start to resent him.
Exactly. Familiarity only breeds liking if the contact is positive. If the contact is unpleasant, like frustration, conflict, or competition, then familiarity breeds contempt.
And this brings us to the Sharif summer camp study. I remember reading about this in college, and it just blew my mind. It's like Lord of the Flies, but, supervised by scientists.
It is one of the most important social psychology experiments ever conducted. Muzaffar Sharif took a group of normal, healthy, well-adjusted boys to a summer camp, and he set out to see if he could artificially create hatred and then if he could cure it.
So walk us through it. How do you make normal kids hate each other?
Phase 1 was just separation. He split the boys into 2 cabins, the Eagles and the Rattlers. And for a while, he just let them bond with their own cabin. They created names, they made flags, they created a we.
That seems harmless enough.
It started that way. But then came phase 2. Sharif introduced competition. He set up a tournament, tug-of-war, baseball, treasure hunts, and there were prizes. Trophies for the winners and, well, nothing for the losers.
So it's zero-sum. If I win, you have to lose.
And that was the spark. The change in behavior was instantaneous and, frankly, terrifying. It started with name-calling. Then it escalated. The Eagles burned the Rattlers' banner.
Whoa.
The Rattlers retaliated by raiding the Eagles' cabin, overturning beds, stealing clothes.
This sounds like a prison riot.
It was. Sharif described it as cross-group hatred at a rolling boil. There were actual physical fistfights. They had to physically separate the groups to prevent injury. And remember, these were normal kids.
But the structure of us versus them competition just turned them into enemies.
That's right. So the scientists have successfully created a mini-war. Now, how do they fix it? Did they try the simple contact approach?
Did they just get them together?
They did. They thought, okay, let's just bring them together in pleasant settings. They had them watch movies together. They had them eat lunch together.
And what happened?
It was a disaster. The lunch line became a shoving match. The movie theater turned into a food fight with the boys using leftovers as ammunition.
So just being in the same room didn't fix the hatred?
No, it just gave them a closer range to fight.
So contact failed.
Yeah.
What worked? This is the turning point of the whole study.
Cooperation. Sharif realized that competition had created the hatred, so only cooperation could cure it. He manufactured a series of crises that the boys could not solve alone.
Like what? What kind of crises?
Well, one day, the single truck available to go get food for the camp mysteriously broke down. It was stuck in a ditch. The boys were hungry. So the staff said, we can't get the truck out unless everyone pulls.
So the Eagles couldn't do it alone, and the Rattlers couldn't do it alone.
Exactly. They tied a rope to the bumper, and for the very first time, you had an eagle standing next to a rattler, both pulling on the same rope for the same goal. They got the truck started.
And that broke the ice.
It started to. Then Sharif cut the water supply. The boys had to work together to find the blockage in the pipes. Over a series of these events, the dynamic shifted. The we versus they dissolved into a larger us.
The common goal overrode the tribalism.
It did, and the payoff was incredible. At the very end of the camp, one group won some money in a contest, and instead of hoarding it, they used it to buy malted milkshakes for the other group.
From burning banners to buying milkshakes, that is the power of cooperation.
It teaches us that if you want to dissolve prejudice, you don't just put people in a room. You have to give them a shared problem to solve.
And the sources mentioned this was applied to schools, specifically with something called the jigsaw classroom.
Yes, this was developed by Elliot Aronson to address the very desegregation issues we mentioned earlier. The concept is just brilliant. He realized the classroom was competitive, so he changed the rules.
How so?
He broke the students into teams. And here's the kicker. He gave each student only one piece of the information necessary to pass the upcoming test.
Like a jigsaw puzzle.
Exactly. Let's say the test is on the biography of Abraham Lincoln. Student A has the info on his childhood. Student B has his legal career. Student C has the Civil War. If student A wants to pass the test, he must listen to student B and C.
You literally cannot succeed unless you help your enemy succeed.
That's it. And there was a really moving case study of a student named Carlos. He was a Mexican-American boy. English was his second language. In the old system, he would just hide in his shell. If the teacher called on him, he'd stumble, and the other kids would roll their eyes or make fun of him.
The dummy of the class.
Right. But in the jigsaw group, the dynamic flipped. Carlos held the piece of the puzzle on Lincoln's middle years. The other kids needed that info, so instead of mocking him, they started to coach him. They'd say, "Come on, Carlos, you can do it." They became his interviewers.
They became his teammates.
And Carlos changed. He relaxed. He realized his classmates were on his side. And the classmates realized Carlos wasn't dumb. He just needed a little support. Prejudice dropped, self-esteem rose, and liking just skyrocketed.
There's a beautiful story about education, but you know what show this is. We always have to look at the dark side.
Of course.
Because if cooperation creates liking, then, compliance professionals are going to fake cooperation.
And that leads us directly to the good cop, bad cop routine.
I always thought this was just a Hollywood trope, Law and Order stuff. But it's actually a psychological masterclass.
It is highly effective, and it works because it combines the contrast principle with the cooperation principle we were just discussing.
So break down the mechanics for me. Why does the suspect fall for it?
Okay, imagine you are a suspect. You are in a small room, you are stressed, and in comes the bad cop. And he is a nightmare. He kicks the chair, he screams. He tells you he's going to make sure you get the maximum sentence. He calls you scum.
So I'm terrified. I feel like I have absolutely no hope.
And you feel like this person is your enemy. Then the good cop intervenes. He says, "Hey, Frank, calm down. Give the kid a break." He sends the bad cop out of the room to get some water.
The relief in the room must be palpable.
It is. And then the good cop sits down. He offers you a coffee. He looks you in the eye and he says, "Look, I don't know why Frank is so angry today. He wants to throw the book at you. He's talking 5 years and no parole."
So he's setting up the common enemy.
Yep.
The bad cop is the enemy.
Exactly. Then he says, "I don't want to see that happen to you. You seem like a decent guy. If we work together right now, I think I can talk the DA down to probation. But you have to help me help you."
Help me help you. That's the cooperation trigger.
And suddenly, the good cop is not an interrogator anymore. He is your partner. He is your teammate in a conspiracy against the bad cop. It's you and him working together to solve the problem of the bad cop's anger.
And the solution to that problem is a confession.
Precisely. The suspect confesses not because they want to admit guilt, but because they are cooperating with their new teammate. It uses fear, contrast, reciprocity with the coffee, and ultimately the cooperation principle to manufacture a bond of trust in just a few minutes.
It's terrifying how effective that is. You are literally confessing to the person who's trying to put you in jail because you feel like they are on your side.
That is the power of the teammate illusion.
Now, speaking of illusions, let's pivot to how we view the messengers of information. We've talked about liking people who cooperate with us, but we also have this really weird tendency to hate people who just bring us bad news.
The messenger's curse. This goes all the way back to ancient history. The sources discuss the Persian Wars. If a messenger ran back to the king with news of a victory, he was treated like a hero, feasted, given gold, women.
And if he brought news of a defeat.
Summarily executed.
Yeah.
Killed right on the spot.
So don't shoot the messenger wasn't just a metaphor. It was a plea for your life.
Shakespeare put it best. The nature of bad news infects the teller. We have this natural, totally irrational tendency to dislike a person who brings us unpleasant information, even when we know they didn't cause it.
The modern version of this, and I found this both hilarious and tragic, is the TV weatherman.
The weatherman syndrome. The stories in the source material are just wild. There was a weatherman in Little Rock who talked about being cornered by a drunk farmer in a bar. The farmer poked him in the chest and said, "You're the one that sent that tornado and tore my house up. I'm going to take your head off."
He literally blamed the guy on TV for the wind.
And there was another story of a woman who hit a weatherman with an umbrella because it rained on her daughter's wedding day. She yelled, "This is for ruining the wedding."
It's the click-whir response again. We associate the person with the event. Bad weather equals bad weatherman.
But the reverse is also true. The weatherman in Phoenix. He's often the most popular guy in town. And why? Because he's constantly predicting sunshine. He is associated with good things.
So association works both ways. If I'm standing next to something you like, you start to like me more.
That is the principle of association. And advertisers spend billions on this every year. I mean, why do you think car commercials always feature attractive models? Why do Olympic athletes sell breakfast cereal?
They want the glory of the Olympics to rub off on the cornflakes.
Exactly. It's a transfer of positive traits. And politicians do this too with something called the luncheon technique.
The luncheon technique, is that just taking donors out to lunch?
It's a bit more scientific than that. It goes back to Pavlov. We all know about the dog, the bell, and the salivation. But a psychologist named Gregory Razran showed this works with people and politics too. He found that people liked political statements better if they saw them while they were eating food.
So feed them, and they'll like your ideas.
Food creates a pleasant physiological response. That positive feeling gets transferred or conditioned to whatever is being discussed while you're eating. That's why the White House waits until after the state dinner to negotiate. It's why fundraising galas ask for money after the meal.
And that's why at the Tupperware party, the bingo prizes are called Tupperware instead of just bingo. You associate the dopamine rush of winning with the brand name itself.
Precisely. You aren't winning a game, you are winning Tupperware.
Now, I want to end our tour of human irrationality in the place where I think it is most obvious, the sports stadium.
The arena of the sports fan. This is where logic goes to die and the association principle takes the throne.
The sources talk about a concept called burging, B-I-R-G, basking in reflected glory.
This is so fascinating. The relationship between a fan and a team is not just entertainment, it is about the self-concept. It is about your ego.
We've all done this.
Mhm.
When our team wins the Super Bowl, what do we say?
We shout, "We won! We are number one!"
We. Even though we were sitting on the couch eating nachos and have never played a down of football in our lives.
We are trying to connect ourselves to the success. We want that glory to rub off on us. We want to be associated with the winner. But notice what happens when the team loses.
Oh, the pronouns change immediately.
There was a famous study at Arizona State University. Researchers phoned students on Mondays after the football team played. If the team won on Saturday, 41% of students used the word "we" to describe the game. We beat Houston.
Okay. And if they lost?
Only 17% used "we." All of a sudden it was they lost to Missouri or the team played badly.
They threw it away. We distance ourselves, we cut the cord.
We bask in the reflected glory, but we refuse to be tainted by the failure. But here is where the study gets really deep. The researchers found that not everyone does this to the same degree.
Who does it the most?
People who are currently feeling bad about themselves. In the experiment, they gave the students a general knowledge test before asking about the game, and some students were told they failed the test miserably. They crushed their self-esteem.
Ouch.
Those students, the ones feeling like losers, were the most likely to use the word "we" when describing the football win.
Wow. So if I feel like a loser in my own life, I need my team to be a winner so I can borrow their success to patch up my ego.
That is the implication. When our own personal prestige is low, we try to restore it by trumpeting our ties to successful others. This explains the stage mother who's obsessed with her child's stardom, or the name dropper, who always mentions they went to school with a celebrity.
They're trying to fill a hole in their own self-concept with someone else's glory.
Yes. And it explains the paper bag fans of the New Orleans Saints. Do you remember that?
Vaguely. The 1980 season.
The Saints were 0-14. Fans started wearing brown paper bags over their heads in the stadium.
They literally wanted to hide their faces.
They couldn't bear the negative association. They wanted to be there, but they didn't want to be seen being there. But as soon as the team started winning years later, the bags came off.
It is human nature. We want to be seen with winners, and we hide from losers. But this leaves us in a really tough spot. We have talked about Tupperware, beauty, flattery, cooperation, sports. The world is a minefield of liking triggers. How do we defend ourselves?
That is the ultimate challenge. We can't just block all these factors. We can't stop noticing that someone is beautiful. We can't stop feeling good when someone compliments us. Those are, well, they're biological reactions.
So if we can't stop the cause, what do?
We fight the effect. Cialdini suggests a jiu-jitsu move. You don't try to prevent the liking. You let it happen. But you set up a mental tripwire.
What's the signal? What's the tripwire?
The signal is the feeling of liking the practitioner more quickly or deeply than you expected.
Okay, so let's role play this. I'm at the car dealership. I'm with Dealin' Dan. He's giving me a donut. He's told me I have great taste in floor mats. He says he camps too. And suddenly, after 25 minutes, I feel like this guy is the brother I never had.
That is the red alert. That feeling, wow, I really like this guy. That's the warning bell. You need to pause and ask yourself, in the 25 minutes I've known this guy, have I come to like him more than I would have expected?
And if the answer is yes,
Then you mentally separate the person from the product. You have to perform a conscious mental surgery. You say to yourself, okay, Dan is a great guy, but Dan is not the car. I am driving the Chevy off the lot, not Dan.
you have to force yourself to look at the deal in a vacuum.
Exactly. Ignore the I like you card. Ignore the donut. Look at the price, the mileage, the warranty, and ask yourself, would I buy this car if it was being sold by someone I hated? If the answer is no, then you are being influenced by the liking rule.
It sounds simple, but in the heat of the moment, with the dopamine of flattery hitting you, it must be hard to do.
It requires practice, but recognizing that surge of affection is the key.
This has been an absolute eye-opener. From the friendly neighbor selling plastic bowls to the good cop offering you a coffee, the mechanism is the same.
It is. The liking rule is a powerful tool for social cohesion. It helps us make friends, build communities. But in the hands of a professional, it is a weapon. We have to distinguish between liking a person and liking what they are selling.
I want to leave everyone with a final thought from the source material. It was a reader's report about the old MCI Friends and Family Plan. Do you remember that?
Oh, vividly. The calling circle.
A guy gets a call. The salesperson says his friend Brad put him on a list. And if he switches to MCI, Brad saves 20% on his calls. The guy didn't want MCI. He was happy with his current service. But he switched anyway.
Because refusing would have felt like rejecting Brad.
He bought a product he didn't want just to save a friend a few bucks. The salesperson told him that this technique works 9 times out of 10. So, as you go about your week, maybe ask yourself, who is the friendly thief in your life right now?
Yep.
And what have you bought from them lately just because you didn't want to say no to a friend?
A provocative question.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. Stay skeptical, and we'll catch you next time.